So growth and welfare, populism might mean different things to different people at different times. So you see that we are trying to address the evolution of populism and the different meaning of populism. So first of all, what is populism? Any vague or idea about populism? Any one of you? Okay. So let's start with the story of populism. You see, it is a very old term, starting with the Greece and Roman Empire. But now in this context, the meaning of populism is different, and it evolved after the failure of totalitarian government and in the aftermath of Second World War. You see that after failure of authoritarian government in the Second World War and the movement of Western Europe towards liberal democracy for the development of the economy and Europe created a sense in the people, the sense of populism. But before going into that, let me ask you, what is the meaning of liberal democracy? What is liberal democracy? You have been using this term quite frequently.
In between capitalism and socialism coordination.
Oh, that would be a very generic and vague definition. So what are the fine points or the very premise on which liberal democracy is based?
Free market.
Everybody viewpoints are accepted. Fine. Any other?
Freedom to work.
Freedom to work. That is also in the democracy now. Okay. Huh? Minimal role of state. Again, yes.
Rule of law.
Problems?
Rule of law.
Rule of law. Yes. See, basically there are 3 points on which liberal democracy is based. 3 larger premise. The first of this premise is the interest of different section in a democracy is different. That means that there is always ground for conflict. Their sections are different, peoples are different based on some kind of identity. 2, provided a mean, these people can find a consensus. Means that there is always a in-between path among the different sectional interest. Fine. Third, that within the confines of the law, the rule of law, the constitution, this should be addressed. So these are the 3 premise on which the notion of liberal democracy is based. Clear? So as it happened that most of the Western country, in fact the developing country, was also moving towards the democracy, and some opted for liberal democracy in this aspect. So Greece was one of those countries, but as you know that if you open up the economy at an earlier stage, there can be a problem. So Greece started suffering from that problem. They opted for democracy and they wanted to integrate with EU and NATO. But the inequality was rising. It was very much rising. So on these notions, a political party formed a government with the Prime Minister as Andrei Pepelov. And he famously said that there is no institution. You have to understand this point, that there is no institution. As you were saying, that the notion of liberal democracy is based on rule of law, and in rule of law the institutions are imperative, isn't it, to run the function government efficiently by the means of RBI or election commission or any such institution. So this person Pepelov said that there are no institutions, they are only people. Okay, so democracy should serve the people, not the institutions. In this context, if you are aware with the metaphor of hard work versus Harvard, this was the metaphor coined by our Prime Minister. No, that what does hard work and Harvard represent? Harvard was taken as a notion of the elite, that these institutions are run by the elite and they don't serve the common public. You see that there is a line of populism in this. Most importantly, why we are discussing populism as of now? What was in the news? Previous in India, in Sri Lanka and in Pakistan. Both the economy of Sri Lanka and Pakistan is failing. Sri Lankan economy is completely failed and Pakistan economy is failing. The same problem can be witnessed in West Bengal. They are questioning the overall independence of the institution. They think that these institutions are run by the elite, a significant elite of the society. So this is why we are discussing populism. So you see that it can have a different meaning from different people. It can be seen in the cultural context. The moment you talk about CAA and such other law, we are talking about it in cultural and social context. How you see that the will of the people is taken as the common will of the people of a certain section in the society. This certain section can be Hindu, Jews in that society where they are in the number of majority. So you see the very premise of the liberal democracy, that there can be a convergent point between different sectional interest is questioned. Clear? Not clear?
So, populism is anti-elitism, or wherever we divide the society into halves or something.
See, populism is always about othering of the people. Othering means you create a difference, you create a wall between different people, that these people are not us. This is the meaning in the social context. In have and have not. You see, yes, there is a retaliation against have. There will be a retaliation against have. For example, if you are talking about this have, so there is a very famous analogy of Marx in this. He said that there is no global recession. It is only created to serve the interest of the elites. Is it clear? That once you say that you need to decrease the subsidy and people will become unemployed and people will work in the lower wages, so ultimately it is the elite that are benefiting. You see what happened during the COVID, that even the economy was in shambles. The purchasing power of the people decreased. Yet you see that the Sensex was increasing to a significant extent. It was touching new heights. Within 1 year, it nearly jumped to 100% of what it was in March 2020. So what was the reason? Anyone? They saved operational cost by firing the people. The employment reduced by 35% in most of the company. So this is how they always allege that the populism is about serving the interest of the elites in the guise of serving the interest of the poor public. They will offer freebies. They will, in India, if you will see, that it started during 1970s with the government of The government of? No. It started during the 1970s or in late 1960s in Tamil Nadu. Annadurai became the chief minister of a non-Congress government of DMK. Isn't it? You must be aware about that fact. So he started appealing to the public on 3 conditions. 1, there will be free food. 2, you will be sold rice at 1 rupees per kg. Okay, and there will be free education. These 3 premises were formed the first time populistic history in India. And after coming to the power in the late surge, it was started in 2006 by DMK again in the political discourse, where they offered free TVs, mixer grinder, laptops, cell phone. So you see that there is another interpretation of populism, that whenever there is one party in the ruling, to assuage the interest, to attract the people towards different ideology, populism is used. Okay. Third, in the economic context, loan waiver. You must be hearing about the loan waiver very frequently. Waiver on the electricity surcharge or electricity charge. This is another kind of populism. Right today itself, there was a statement by Narendra Modi that the power crisis in India is created by the populist policies on the population. Particularly, he was talking about the 200 units and what is being offered in Gujarat or in Punjab in the electricity case, in the case of farmer. So the point of interest is that can populism be good? Can subsidy be good? Or subsidy is always bad? But before going into that, you have to understand that what is populism first of all. So you see, populism legitimates itself in the term of popular sovereignty by referring to a part of population that supposedly represent the will as a whole. Is it clear or is it complicated? Not clear? See, what we are talking about popular sovereignty in this case is, what is popular sovereignty?
Sir, it's like a part of population who are assuming they are the whole population.
See, it is always generally considered as that. This is what I was talking, common will. Common wills means if they are 84% Hindu, they are united, they can represent the popular sovereignty. Or for that matter, popular sovereignty is what elected BJP government in India, or for that matter any government in India, because they voted for that government. So legitimate itself as in terms of popular sovereignty by referring to a part of population that supposedly represent the people as a whole. It is the government who represents the people, na? That's why it is called. Further, it presents a heterogeneous and incompatible demand as one demanded by the people, that we want growth and we want subsidy. If there is no physical prudence maintained in the economy, do you think that growth will come? Ultimately, the businessmen and the MNCs are not fools. They will leave the country at some point of time. This is what happened in India, where Toyota left India, Ford left India. That the taxes are very high. This happened in the last year, na? Why taxes are high? Ultimately, you have to fund the subsidy, and from where that fund will come, those person who can pay generally pay from the surcharge, from different cess. Okay, so heterogeneous and incompatible demand, the government for the middle class, yet there are hardly any step that will result in the increased number of middle class in India. One, because over in the last 5 years, the overall number of middle class has decreased. Okay. Further, dividing the people within the population and outside on friend and enemy relations over the demarcation of radical antagonism. What the statement means? Right now, just I mentioned the term othering. Othering. That is us versus them. What was the slogan "Make America Great Again" was based on? You must be aware with this slogan, na? Make America Great Again. No? Appealing to the white population. Middle class working white population. You see that an enemy was identified. An enemy was globalization. Enemy was migrant, immigrants, or the refugees. So those MNCs which are transferring which are outsourcing the manufacturing process to the least developed countries or developing countries were villainified, and they wanted to bring all these things to America again. This is not how business run. Business always looks for profit, and how they will look for the profit? By reducing the operational cost. In Asia, the labor cost is low. So by this means of this, we identified first of the parameter which is resulting into populism, which is globalization. That globalization is increasing inequality, and because of which haves are hated by haves not. Generally, you hate your richer neighbor. This is a reality. Generally, you hate the relative whose son is whose words are qualified, and they show it off. अरे मेरा बेटा तो ये बन गया. This is the common tendency in India, and particularly the middle class. So you see that these people, the major reason because of which BJP won the Uttar Pradesh election and demonetization was appraised in India was a sadistic pleasure. देखो हम लाइन में खड़े हैं, ऑडी वाले भी लाइन में खड़े हैं. So this is the condition, that the inequality is instigating the people to hate those who are the wealth creator in India, or who has the potential to create wealth. You see, the corporates are not trusted. Corporate lifestyle is often villainified. That nowadays is changing with entrepreneurship, but largely this has been the case. That's why you see that emphasis is always on the government job. 2. First is globalization. Second, right now, just we have discussed that for the first time, populism was witnessed in India when we were talking about DMK. So what does that signify? That there was a homogenized tendency, homogenized political order, and there was retaliation against this. The regional belief, the regional interest were negated in favor of all India interest. So when there is always homogenized political order or political ideology, homogenized political ideology. So this is another criteria based on which populism can be identified. Now, third point, you see, this is third point is talking about the one enemy. Uniting the friends extricated from the population under a single leadership so that it remains undivided. Now, how many of you do have a public administration optional? Only one. Sociology? 2 people. So there is always a discussion about, in fact even in political science, charismatic leadership. What is charismatic leadership? It builds quality towards to attract the people. This can be one line of the discussion. Another?
You can lead the group
through personal. Okay. You see that generally charismatic leader emerge in the time of crisis. And based on some personal characteristics, they attract the people. Charismatic leadership or charismatic authority is often talked about in this Weberian work. Na? So they generally attract the people in the times of crisis. Isn't it? So uniting the friends extricated and from the population under a single leadership, Rajpakshe, Sri Lanka. So how they united the Buddhist, largely Buddhist section or Sinhalese section in the Sri Lanka, using Tamil as an enemy, isn't it? Imran Khan, how he united Pakistanis, Naya Pakistan. What was the old Pakistan in that case? Naya Pakistan is some Pakistan which will be available for the common people. Old Pakistan was ruled by the military elites or the elites, common elites. So Naya Pakistan is for the common people. New India is for the common people, not the Lutyens people. So you see across these countries or wherever populism is in prominence, they always questions the institution. They will always question the institution. In India, RBI was questioned. There was an RTI in which it was mentioned that the government did not elicited an opinion from the RBI about demonetization. It just went ahead with the process. They are against the, right now you see that in the case of Nupur Verma or any other, there is always a crisis that they start questioning the Supreme Court. That Supreme Court is serving the interest of others. So they find some common ground on which a significant people or the common will can be formed around, modulated around. So this they identify such groups. In case of Sri Lanka, it was Sinhalese. In case of India, you can say that it is the Hindus.
Subjective realization, objective realization.
You just coined a sociology jargon. No. See, subjective realization of objective reality is a different thing altogether. Means you are aware of your real position. What we are talking about is a false consciousness, which we will subsequently discuss. Now, if you have raised the question, we will discuss it definitely right now. You see that we have until now we have identified 2 criteria for the inequality in the society. That first was globalization, second was homogeneous political order or ideology. But what is the root cause of the inequality in the world right now? What do you think is the root cause for the inequality right now, as of now? Why?
Capitalism.
See, basically what we are talking about here is an ideology. You have to think about it. Why capitalism is increasing or strengthening itself?
Money concentrated on a particular people. Money concentrated on single elite people and
what they are saying is just you are paraphrasing that. So you see, ultimately it is due to the technology, not globalization, not capitalism. Capitalism existed even before 1990s. But as the people start controlling the technology, the inequalities are increasing in the society. You see, now the big four, as you know it, they are controlling the economy. They are controlling the politics, and the retaliation is against the big four. You are clear with the big four physiology? No? Apple, Google, Microsoft, Tesla. Okay. So these people are those people who are controlling the technology or increasing the inequality. Last year, there was a technological innovation in US where they wanted to automate the truck industry. And as you know, the truck industry is the lifeline of US. What they claimed is that they will reduce the accident or spoilage by 87%, and the company was sold for around $2 billion. The moment automation in trucking will start, what will be the result? There are so many people who are dependent upon the highways. The moment automation will come, these people will be jobless. And that is happening in India right now. Because as the automation is increasing, the number of employee is reducing in the traditional manufacturing sector or the service sector. So it will increase the inequality and there will be retaliation against this. So this point is known to all the political leaders, yet nobody is talking about technology as a force which increases inequality in the society. Largely they will talk about the globalization, largely they will talk about the political order. The BJP is questioning the Congress on the base politics of it, no? They are not saying it directly, but the moment you say that MG Narega is a manifestation of your failure of these 70 years, you are questioning that very ideology. You are questioning the ideology of socialism. So you see, popular will is framed around those points which intrigues the public or create a sense of a common standpoint, common consensus to the exclusion of other. But it is not the root cause. That's why I called it that it is not subjective awareness of objective reality. Largely it is false consciousness. Because they provide a common solution for all those things. Isn't it? So, now, populism can range from persuasive politics to dangerous agenda that creates internal and external conflict, negates climate change and rejects human rights. Any example? Even separately. Persuasive politics. Why Sri Lanka switched to the organic farming, and there was a very much appraisal of the efforts by the Sri Lanka. Why Sri Lanka switched to organic farming? Saving forex, because due to COVID and due to the unnecessary outflow of the money, they never had the forex. And to negate these part, so that the common public is not aware of the real situation, this is that we are switching to the organic farming. That was not the reality. To dangerous agenda, questioning, make America great again, questioning the MNCs, creating a distorted sense of hate towards the MNCs, distorted sense of hate towards the other communities. Though Jews contribute to a significant amount in the US economy, yet there is a wave of anti-Semitism. Isn't it? So, climate change, withdrawal from the Paris Summit, and rejects human right. Urban Naxal, or questioning the basic foundation of it, questioning the rights to it. Okay, we crave out 4 root. See, dominant cause in a period determines socio-economic condition structure of the voters. Populism can have a left-wing or right-wing agenda, and it accelerates with regional problem, inequality, spatial disequilibrium, and migration. Everything is clear. The crisis of the globe, GFC crisis 2008, nearly everything was blamed on the migrant. And you see what is left-wing agenda, that state should facilitate growth by giving package. Na? This is what happened in India. This is what was happening in the US. They supported the capitals, right-wing agenda, they withdrew the subsidies. So this is what is happening, in which they play more active part and make further inroads. So you see, we are talking about that how populism is common across left wing or right wing. What the things that Mamata Banerjee and Kejriwal is doing, and which has often been termed as a Revadi culture by our Prime Minister, signifies that point, that ultimately it is harmful to the overall economy. Okay, what will happen when our government doesn't maintain financial prudence, or fiscal deficit will increase? This can be one of the questions for your prelims. So what is the conceptual framework around it? What is the region of increasing fiscal deficit? What is the limit right now?
Subsidies also.
So yes, that is the region for increasing, but what will be the consequence?
Forex will be raising taxes for the next generation.
Raising taxes for the next generation. And just explain, just think about it. Now you must have read the economics. Extended borrowings will result in debt, crowding out.
Costly loans.
Yes, crowding out, isn't it? Crowding out will make money dearer or cheaper? Huh? So interest rate will increase. There will be less chance of borrowing. So the overall economy will go into hyperinflation, which ultimately turn into recession, because there will be no job growth. Clear? Why you seem confused? This is some of the very basic economics. Okay, so this is, you see, that if you will keep investing, there is always a debate between those who support the right wing politics. Right wing means, what is right wing and what is left wing?
Supports capitalism.
Right wing. Yes, and left wing?
Who thinks for the welfare of Indians.
Okay. What is the economic orientation of left and right? Right will wing support rollback of the state, and left wing will say that states should invest more in the social infrastructure, health infrastructure, job creation. The Keynesian part of the economics, the package that is given by the government right during the times of COVID pertains to the left wing economics.
So right wing basically means that state should be an enabler.
Yeah, see, they are not left wings are economically conservative and right wings are economically progressive. They will more talk about that the country should be integrated, that there should be disinvestment, it should provide an enabling role so that private industries can grow for itself.
So they believe in trickle down effect by encouraging the capitalists.
In a way, it can be said, but that is common across left wing and right wing. See, right wing will see growth as a tool for the development, economic growth. The left wing will see that we should develop the people, and ultimately after some time development will automatically come.
Bottom up approach.
Bottom up approach. empower the people, and they will find the work for themselves. This is the approach which is adopted by the Congress from 1947 till 2014. This was the approach that enabled the people. Give them work, give them money, and they will find something constructive with it. This was the main line of difference between, you see, that after independence, India embarked on a path where higher education was preferred over primary education, even in the Nehruvian times. The result was that India excelled at the service sector and not in the manufacturing sector where primary education was needed. Okay, so you see that as against this, the Janata Party government, not Janata Party government, Swarajya Party. How many of you know Swaraj Party? Raja ji, it is a very important lesson in post-India independence. Raja ji Party, Swaraj Party always said that we should help the private sector to grow. The government is not benefiting them. Okay, so this was the result. So after 1990s, when the approach changed, there was growth in India. There was higher economic growth, which resulted into the percolation of money to the bottomest section. The relative poverty decreased, absolute poverty decreased, but relative poverty increased to a significant extent, because now the wealth was distributed in such a way that those people with the skills and the economy were controlling the economy. So relative poverty increased, but absolute poverty decreased. Clear? This was the debate that was there in the last year economic survey. Okay, the debate between growth and the growth versus budget deficit. So this was the debate. So you see, left wing are generally economic conservative. They will help the public by education, by the thing which right now even all the governments are doing. Garib Kalyan Yojana is a part of left wing politics, that those people who cannot care for themselves, you should give them food subsidy. And it is being questioned by the US and FAO and the UN also, WTO also. Okay, so because of the liberal tradition. Now, what are the economic cause of populism? Rising unemployment, low growth, rising unemployment and inequality. Where, see, this growths are stagnating in Europe and America. When India was increasing at a growth of more than 7%, nobody questioned the globalization. But right now we started questioning the globalization, all the globalization. So whenever there will be low growth, people will start questioning, will resort to the populism. The same thing that happened in US after GFC crisis, global financial crisis 2008. Rising unemployment, it will turn more people populistic, and they will act as a common ground for the populist leader. Inequality among the individual, but also increasingly across region, is the force of today's population. You see, during the times of 2008 to 2012, there was a retaliations against the Indian immigrant everywhere, particularly in Australia and America. Fourth generation, third generation migrants. Why? Because the jobs were decreasing, isn't it? At that time, during 2008-2009, Maharashtra Navnirman Sena gained prominence. But right now, the Maharashtra Navnirman Sena, a regionalist party, is missing from the debate. Why? Because jobs are there. There is a differentiation in the job. Nobody questions that who is a Swiggy rider or Zomato rider. So income and population are increasing in urban centers and modern industrial districts, while in periphery there is low growth and low investment from international firms, since they needed skilled labor and supplier. It is often said that a poor white man is more racist. What does it mean? Naturally, Because he is relatively deprived. What is relatively deprivation? What is relative deprivation? You are feeling deprived. It is the urban woman, urban middle class woman who questions their right. It is not prevalent in the poor ruler, poor woman that talks about the rights, that we are not being treated equally, that talks about feminism, is generally limited to the urban middle class woman. Why? See, basically, the rich women have got their right. The poor don't care about their rights. It is because they already have some kind of right now. And this was a question in 2019 in UPSC, that what is relative deprivation? So when you compare yourself against a reference group, then only relative deprivation will come. There is no absolute deprivation. There is a relative, in the sense that at some point and some part of your life you are missing something. There is a power void. Isn't it? So what is cultural cause for the populism? Value system. Is fundamentalism an example of populism?
Then it seems that in the coming time, the populism will increase when it comes to economic causes.
If the inequality will increase, there will be definitely demand for
Skill level, in the coming time, demand of the skill level is increasing.
but there will be a lot of people who will left behind. What is the concept of universal basic income? Is it sustainable? It is not sustainable, if you will ask. States are not earning not that much. But why there is always a demand for universal basic income? In fact, last year there was a such demand in India also. Why? Because people are losing on opportunity due to the increasing technology, automation. And that's why, to assuage that feeling, the demand for universal basic income was created across. It is the phenomena of across the world. Now, cultural cause. Do you think that fundamentalism is a kind of populism? Yes. You see that due to the globalization and increasing globalization, there is a tendency towards homogenization. Clear? Cultural homogenization. It's a reactionary. It's generally seen in the terms of reaction to the changing values and the norms in the society. The religious group tried to protect themselves from such other group. That's why you will see that there is an increased trend towards Wahhabism of Islam in Pakistan and in Maldives. Because the value system is impacted in these countries due to the globalization. The rise of Hindutva politics after 1990s due to the impacts of globalization. Isn't it? You start questioning it. People are becoming more rational, religious, and a bit agnostic or atheist. So they think that the globalization, the cultural synonymity or homogeneity is impacting their culture, and in that case, fundamentalism acts as a cushion against this thing. Just try to see the characteristics of any populistic leader. Most of the populistic leader, you will see that right wings are generally religious. Be it Trump, be it Modi ji, Imran Khan, anyone. They are religious people. In fact, if you do remember that in the class of abortion, we have discussed that the ruling of the Supreme Court, Roe versus Wade, and the 3 judges who contradicted the earlier positions were conservative. They were appointed by the Donald Trump regime or government. So, fundamentalism acts as a populism, because you see that fundamentalism acts as the source of power in the society. They find some consensus. They find some relevant point on which people can be mobilized. There is a difference between fundamentalism, what was post-globalization, that initially fundamentalism was limited to the urban area only. Now it is being percolated to the countryside or rural area also. That is a complete different phenomena altogether, because the communal rights never generally took place in the countryside, in the rural area. The late 2014 Muzaffarnagar violence and the violence that we are witnessing nowadays is changing that. Earlier there is a viewpoint of communalism which was daily life viewpoint. The people of different girl and boy of different community eloped together. There was beef issue, there was such issues. So now you see there is a transcendental viewpoint of communalism. What is transcendental? It is beyond your daily life. It questions your religious affiliation, either my way or a highway. If you are not with Hinduism, then you are urban Naxal, you can go to the Pakistan. Okay, and they coins the terms which generally deride the media or any free speech, any element of free speech, that they are being liberal. So they will name names for liberals and such other people, and this is not limited to India also only. I believe that prostitutes were the terms coined by the Donald Trump himself. Prostitutes. That those who sell the journalism for the profit. This was the meaning of prostitutes. So you see that fundamentalism acts as a tool for power grab in the society, and that's how this is a cultural cause. Now the speed of change. How many of you are aware with a term called cultural lag? What is cultural lag? Difference between institutional means and cultural goals. Okay, fine. You see that within 10 years or after every year,
people are not able to utilize the technology in a good way.
Yes, that can be very. You see that every other year there is a new iPhone, and there is an agenda setting that how this iPhone is better than that iPhone, with just realignment of the camera and such other issues. So there is hardly any change which a common public can perceive or is able to appreciate. Yet there is an agenda that this is good, the newer iPhone is better, it has more pixel, and I don't think so those people who are not gamer are able to appreciate the difference, that what was different in the newer iPhone or the old iPhone, or for that matter in any of the version of Android. So there, from last 15 years or so, there is a change in the technology, frequent change. There is a rapidness in the change of technology. But do you think that the cultural system, the cultural part, the value part of the society is able to keep up with that change? So that is cultural lag. That the society, the culture is not able to keep up with the change in technology. and this creates problem. That is cultural lag. That the value system doesn't change correspondingly with change in technology or technological value system. See, what is technology after all? It is a manifestation of individualism, Western values. But using that technology, how we are collecting the opinions or forming an opinion. However, we should move towards more rationalization attitude, more scientific attitude, yet we are using that technology to form an opinion which results in othering of the other people, which results in finding an enemy. An enemy is those who don't support your viewpoint. So that is cultural lag. So the rapidity of the change in the society, be it in the terms of economics, be it in the terms of value system with technology. So this is creating a sense where people find solace, or they look for the opportunity where they can find a common ground. Huh?
If cultural lag is an inherent thing, then it will lead to the extinction of all the civilizations, right? Because there is always, like, you find nuclear weapons, AI, everything. There will always be this cultural lag. So it will ultimately result into destruction in everything. Is it something unavoidable?
See, corresponding was the word. That cultural system changes, but not as fast as the technological system. Isn't it? See, with the help of social media, many people are becoming aware of their rights. Isn't it? Now they are appreciating the terms democracy, rights, and social media has resulted in the responsive government. Earlier the government was not responsive to the needs. So we see that there is change in the culture, in understanding of the culture, but it is slow. Isn't it? So the cultural system is also changing, but not as fast as the technological system. First there is a crime, only then there will be a law. It doesn't mean that crime will always, will result in erosion of the societal values or annihilation of the society, but it will be a step behind. The law will be always a step behind the crime. Same is true with the technological change in the society.
There is something fueling the technological growth, or the rapid growth rate of technology. Is there anything that is fueling the cultural progress?
Yes.
Because it is at the end of the day relatively how much, with what pace each is growing. Technology is growing at 10%. Cultural
is going out maybe 1%.
So compoundingly, this difference is going to increase over a period of 10-20 years. So much that...
Oh, probably you are going for the geometric progression, isn't it? So see, basically, there will be a mechanism now. If there was change in the culture, the government retaliated by forming some law. So what right now you are saying is 1% will ultimately after a point of time will go like 7%, 8%. After that, every other law will come. Initially the society is not able to keep up with the law, but ultimately after some point of time, law will be formed by the government, and there will be change in the value system. See, this is the main reason now. Why? Because Constitution was not able to erode the gender distinction, the caste distinction. Why? Because there was no internalization. Isn't it? No. So you see that skills mismatch are there, uncertainties are there, religious, political priorities have become less homogeneous. So the communality between the people are decreasing. Isn't it? You see that earlier there was Jawahar Rozgar Yojana, and government generally gave the mills, atta mills and candle making industries to the people who are unemployed. Now there is Digital India Mission. So those people, government, the support mechanism, the government of itself failing. So there will be newer set of skills which will be required with the newer technology, which will ultimately result into Gulf. Okay. Now, populism and the rise of far right around the world. See, cultural populism, socio-economic populism, and anti-establishment populism. These 3 points, you can read it. This is the same thing which we have discussed till now. Yes.
Is there a difference between totalitarianism and authoritarian?
Yes, there is a very much difference between totalitarian and authoritarian government. See, ultimately it is believed that populism will lead to totalitarianism. Totalitarianism is some form of political system which try to control all aspects of your life, be it social, political, economical, all cultural. Authoritarian generally try to control some form of your life. It can be the economic system. For example, in South Korea, generally there is a misconception that South Korea was a democracy since 1948. Because I generally check in the script, this is the one line of difference when it comes to democracy, that people compare South Korea versus North Korea. But was South Korea or Singapore was a democracy?
There will be more freedom.
See, South Korea only turned a full democracy in 1996. The same is true with the Singapore also. So they were generally considered soft authoritarian government because they tried to control some part of the life. In this case, it was the economics. There were rights, okay, there were duties, but economy was completely controlled by the government. Development part, related part, everything was controlled by the government. Okay. In this part, there was, in this section, economic section, there was no rule of law. Who is the greatest fashion designer of the world? Any idea? What? Person. Who is generally considered as the greatest fashion designer in the history of human civilization till now? Are you not that much into fashion? Or are you not that much into politics? Okay, fine. Mao Zedong. Mao is generally considered as the greatest fashion designer because he designed a cloth and everybody was wearing that. Olive green for the male and red gown for the females. So there was a fascination of the Chinese people to wear colors or clothes of different color, and they used to see themselves in the mirror because it was a fiat by the Mao Zedong that anyone in public will wear these clothes only, and there will be no deprivation, relative deprivation, that somebody is wearing Adidas and somebody is wearing Star Wars. Like a school uniform. Okay. So he was considered this aspect of your life, the fashion aspect of your life comes under the totalitarian regime. And how many of you are aware with the concept of nowhere children? Any idea? See, generally it is used in the parlance of Indian child labor issues and crisis, but it started in the USSR in its early phase, when probably you must be aware with the notion of the marks on the family system, Marx and Engels on the family system. Those who are from the sociology background, I hope that they will answer the question. What was the view of Marx and Engels on the family system? Or in fact, what was the view of Marx on private property? This is for everyone. This is open to everyone. That what was the Marx view on private property? Okay, so this the same was the view on the family system. Family system. They considered marriage as a form of institution, as an institution which controls the woman, which controls the woman's sexuality. Okay, which makes woman a private property. That's why when USSR was formed in 1917, and Lenin was the government, he told that we should abolish the institution of marriage, because family as a system creates the ideology of capitalism. Okay, so from 1917 to 1923, any form of marriage were banned in USSR. The result was anybody can be with anyone, the result should be. So nearly 8 million children were there with a hope that community will take care of them. If they will be in family, the value and the systems of capitalism will only increase. So 8 million children were reproduced in this time, and nobody claimed the opinion of fatherhood or responsibility of these children. That's why these children were called nowhere children. So ultimately, when they realized that this opinion of Marx is failing, so they restored the marriage in USSR only with a caveat that there should be, if suppose two people marry, then they should instill the value of communism in their children. लेकिन ultimately जंगल में मोर नाचा किसने देखा? This is the metaphor, na? That what happened behind the closed door, nobody knows. And ultimately this system became unsustainable because everybody wants their life. So this is the aspect of the totalitarianism, that they try to control all aspect of your life, from clothing to reproducing to even food. Because there was a food crisis in USSR, so people have to find their own food, even the richest person. Wheats, and because ultimately it will result in forex exchange, and there was crisis. So during these times, you see that they try to control your food, your fashion, your reproduction. So this is something called, they try to control your life totally. That's why it is called an authoritarian. You understand, it is very clear, because they try to exert the authority. Okay, so now these two events, election of President Donald Trump and the Brexit vote, because there was hardly a difference of 1% in this referendum, which resulted into Britain exit from the EU. Okay, so this is considered because the poor men voted for the separation. So this is considered as the most populist policy, or the watershed movement in the history of population across the world. Now, what is the populist schemes? Now this is of the main importance here, and we have to thread a line which is balanced. What is merit and non-merit good? What is good subsidy and bad subsidy? Who wants to discuss any definition? What is merit and non-merit good? This is the very basic of economics, I believe. I hope that you know it. Yes.
Sir, good subsidy will promote to the good results, sir. Ultimately, the government will not get any burden relating to any other. For example, unfortunately due to the free electricity, all incomes has been went to debt crisis. They have so many.
So this is bad subsidy.
Yes, sir.
But ultimately it results into the increase in food production also. Though there is wastage in water, but ultimately food production is also being increased. So how can you compartmentalize that this is good subsidy and this is bad subsidy? Is it a clear distinction available?
But ultimately income companies are going to present is the major issue.
Okay, fine. What is merit and non-merit?
Subsidies that increase the productive capacity, like subsidies given on farm mechanization. So that would be a good, that would be.
See, yes, this is the main line of difference between merit and good subsidy, that whatever is increasing the productive capacity of an economy can be considered as a good subsidy or merit good. Okay, but not as simple as that. Probably for the first year, maybe it can result in good subsidy. For example, Garib Kalyan Yojana, where where a poor person was given this and that much amount of food items, food grains during the times of COVID, can be considered as good subsidy. But if you are extending it for the repeated amount of time, it will result into bad subsidy, because see, at that time conditions were different. Now what is the basic economy that can be applied behind it? It will result into the inflation, isn't it? Higher inflation. How? Because there is a flow of the food items in the market. Ultimately price will crash and people will start buying something different. Meat consumption will increase. Other inferior, see, once the inferior good becomes cheap, then the other goods, not clarity. What is inferior good? See, bread and meat. If the price of the bread will go up, then what will be the impact on meat? Yes, you are repeating the point. See, the prices, the demand of the meat will decrease, na? Isn't it? Because people will investing more into the bread item, because bread has become costlier.
But it also depends the earnings of the individual.
So you see, whenever we talk about economics, then there is you will read it in newspaper or in even any of the economic texts. There is always used a Latin phrase, ceteris paribus. What is the meaning of ceteris paribus? Keeping all that other thing constant. Now what you are doing is you are increasing one more variable. Okay, that, see, the ultimate, what happened after 6th or 7th pay commission? The salary increased. Ultimately the food items, prices of the vegetable and the grains increased. So figuratively, if you will conclude the inflation, salary remained same, but there was an opinion among the vegetable vendors कि अरे अब तो 7वां पे कमीशन लगी, ज़्यादा पैसे मिलेंगे तो पैसे ज़्यादा दीजिए, है ना? See, ultimately this is the main issue, that if you will give the food items, food grains for free, it will at some point of time it will ultimately lead to inflation. So if the inflation will increase, to some extent it is good. If it will move beyond that extent, then it will have inflationary pressure on the economics, which ultimately result in, see, interest rate will increase, there will be no money to put in reproduction, investment, okay, and ultimately job will decrease. So after a while it will turn into recession, stagnation, isn't it? After stagnation it will turn into global financial crisis or particular crisis in the country. The same thing which happened in 1929.
Take into consideration the other aspect, like
Yes, we naturally have to take all these things into aspect. What was the farmers movement was about? Ultimately, farmers, that there will be no free electricity, and this created a point of conflict between government and the farmers. Is electricity merit good or non-merit good? At the earlier phase, during the times of, you have to understand everything in its historicity. You see, at that time electricity was costly. At that time the input cost in agriculture was increasing. At that time farmers were getting strengthened, and though Bharat Kisan Union and such as a farmer organization agitated against the overall economics, and this resulted into subsidy. See, in the initial period it was needed because we were shifting from traditional seeds to HYV seeds and it was costly. But after a while, these subsidy has to be done away with. But due to the populist government or pressure on the government by the various pressure group in the society, this system continued. So ultimately it's turning into bad subsidy, because now we are able to gauge that what are the environmental impacts on these subsidy. Ultimately it is Punjab and some part of Haryana where there is a crisis of which is resulting into cancers, non-communicable disease, desalination of the soil, sorry. So you see the benefits or the cons is outweighing the pros. There is a detrimental impact on overall situation. So this is the line of, this is the line of argument. Populist schemes should be an immediate relief, not a long-term sustainable solution. The other part, the Ajivika scheme, if it would have been intertwined with the MG Narega, because that was related with the skill development, would have resulted in good things. But ultimately we are continuing the Narega. We are not building the capacity because we are not able to take care of the people who are already left behind. Isn't it? So any subsidy is not a long-term solution. What is the Pakistani economic crisis all about? Isn't it related with the prices of the petrols? There was a debate by the various government, even the opposition government, that the prices of the petrol in Pakistan is far cheaper than India. The benefits are not being translated into the common public. Is this line of argument is fine? Because Pakistani government, even after the increase in the price, keeps subsidizing the petrol prices. And now it has gone beyond them. In its 35-year of history, Pakistan, since they opened the economy, they have borrowed 53 times from the IMF. So how much fiscal prudence they are maintaining? If it would not have been for selling the territories to the China or the modes of FDI they are taking, what will happen to them? Ultimately there will be a crisis, the same crisis that we are witnessing in Sri Lanka nowadays, because China keeps supporting them. But is the financial prudence is maintained? The same thing happened with the India also, that 2 times we took the loan from the IMF. Years and no. At that time we were doing good. 66 after you keep ruling plans after 65, 66, 67. So that was the first time that we went to the IMF. But what was the result? There is no free lunch. So we have to change according to that. So ultimately there will come a point that economy will be in turmoil. and it will result very much on overall economic system. 1929 crisis, a witness to that. 1999 crisis, 2008 crisis. It was the populistic policy of the giving home loans, no? The crisis that we are witnessing in China nowadays, it has not emerged out of populistic policy, but the interest rate were kept low. And in China, home is the biggest asset. Everybody wants to own the home, which we will discuss in the next topic. But there is a phenomena of bare branches in China, and at some point of time we will also witness that. But there is a ongoing phenomena of bare branches. What is bare branches? Just in its essence, what is literally the bare branches? Just conjure up an image of a tree, na? Bhai, this is not technical jargon. I am just asking that what is a bare branch? Without leaves. Okay, so what can a bare branch be in society or in a family system? Suppose somebody has a son, okay, and he is not getting married because the girls are not available, bride is not available. So for getting married, it is imperative that you should own a home, and that happened in China. In China, people shop for the bride. There are so many companies which provides a guarantee that you will get married in exchange of this much money, and if your wife escapes within 1 year of year, we will return your money. And they generally get the brides from CMLV countries and Pakistan. I believe that you know CMLV countries, na? So East Tiger Asian countries. So they get the bride from these poorer countries, North Korea and such other countries, with a guarantee. So you see that there is a sex ratio of 795 to 1000 in China. So you see it is increasing only. So people started buying home, and to a source that banks started giving them loan. And ultimately you have been reading the newspaper that what is the current form of the crisis. Isn't it? So the line of argument that what is good subsidy and what is bad subsidy can change as per the notion or the demand of that time. Now, what impact does populism has on different institutions? It can certainly lead to erosion in different institutions. Even RBI has to defend demonetization ultimately, and you see that sometimes judiciary gives the judgment which is beneficial to the populist demand. Scrapping of the license spectrum was considered as such one deal. Punishing the bureaucrat involved in the coal mining, coal auctionation is considered one such deal. That sometimes due to the media trial, judges are forced on to adhere an opinion so that there can be stability in the society and the victory can be of the powerful group. So at some point of time it will certainly lead to the erosion in the separation of power. So it will have a larger significant impact. One such example was Roe versus Wade case in USA. What is Roe versus Wade case? Abortion wala case. It is the populist opinion of the judges, the conservative party, that resulted into this thing, gun license. It is because of the populist opinions. Institution will erode. You see that what is happening with the PMLA, even in this PMLA case, many people are questioning the wisdom of Supreme Court. You must have read that article. Okay. So, now yes, there is another kind of populism, poll bond populism. So what is the impact of poll bond populism? Isn't it led to the farce in the democracy that by giving laptops or mixer grinder or television set or free electricity, what happened in Punjab? That Kejriwal promised free electricity for the Punjab, and now when it comes to implementing them, that he is putting the blame on the center, that we need a waiver of 1 lakh crore or you should fund us. Ultimately, it lead to the increased fiscal deficit. So this was continuing from the 1970s as a freebies culture, and Annaduri started it. DMK government in 2016 strengthened it, and there was a trend towards competitive populism by Jayalalitha to control this. As Balasubramaniam Subramaniam went to the court, first to the election commission. They said that we don't have any mandate over freebies and populism. So after that he went to the Madurai High Court, after that to the Supreme Court. So Supreme Court directed the election commission to control the freebies culture. But it hasn't happened since 2013. The money being offered is only controlled, but not the goods that political parties are promising. Yesterday only there was a case in hearing in the Supreme Court, and it has directed the election commission to come up with some regulation and controlling the freebies culture. See, freebies culture result into the erosion of democracy because it won't help you in exercising your choice. Now, so what is the undesirable outcomes of the populism? Social polarization, socio-economic issues. Social polarization, you understand? Just tell me one thing, do you understand othering of others? Othering, what is othering? Us versus them is the debate, because I'm using othering quite often. What is othering? Treating other people as a different group on some notion of some different values, isn't it? So it results into the polarizing of the opinion on the basis of political ideology and such that socio-economic issues due to the joblessness or rising inequality, low economic growth, corruption and abuse, against democracy, authoritarian tendencies which ultimately can turn up to totalitarian tendencies. Okay. So judicial independence we have discussed. So you see that subsidy should be dealt in such a way that what is the immediate consequences and what is the long-term consequences of this. So what is the way forward? That macroeconomic, taxation, industrial and commercial policies of the left out. See that same line of argument, that what is the utility of subsidy? Isn't it? In case of economy, what is the utility of the subsidy? It should be always associated with. In case of culture, the deepening of the values, understanding, trying to see, for liberal democracy, tolerance and the belief in the institution is a very strong thing. So we have to strengthen our tolerance and believe in the institution. When it comes to technology, because that is the largest factor. So a notion of global village where the technology transfer should happen and strengthening of the corporate social responsibility.
Welcome to LUKMAAN IAS. Study general studies with LUKMAAN IAS for building comprehensive knowledge GS paper 2 and 4 will be taken by S. Ansari and other papers will be covered by renowned faculties. Live classes are as effective as offline classes. The classes are highly interactive in nature. Your doubts and queries will be addressed and there will be dictation of notes. In the last 10 years, LUKMAAN IAS has set up a niche in the field of UPSC guidance.